Welcome to the Epic Vision Zone. My guest today comes to us from Dubai. She is a renowned seeker, searcher, learner, and explorer. Actively involved in the plant medicine renaissance, she has experienced tribes in Ecuador, Peru, and Mexico exploring many indigenous medicines to reveal the depths of their gifts and applications. Author of Amazon international bestseller, You, the Divine Genius, You Are More Than You Think, she has a passion for empowering changes in our thinking and perceptions. Her travels and curious nature have fueled her enthusiasm to give individuals the opportunity to move in unexpected directions. Her extensive personal development and communication knowledge and teachings provide a methodology to expand our awareness, consciousness, and heart and mind connection so that we can step into a fuller and more focused version of who we are. Known as a respected master trainer and authority in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, she utilizes its many tools and techniques to create rapid shifts for groups and individuals so that they can quantum leap forward in their lives. She uses breakthrough experiences to garner results, and with her title of Master Firewalker Instructor, she is known to utilize one of mankind's older change-promoting tools, the Firewalk. As a prominent and recognized international keynote speaker, she has guided and inspired people around the globe, offering galvanizing events for world-class companies. Her motivational speeches at conferences, events, or workshops are nothing shy of extraordinary. With her rare ability to see a deep perspective within every individual, she creates a blueprint of action steps to move individuals forward. Welcome, Carol Talbot.
My goodness, what a beautiful introduction. Thank you. I feel quite humbled.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're very welcome. It's all you. And I am so excited to have you. And thank you so much for staying up. Dubai is many hours ahead of us. So Carol has taken this time to be with us. And I so thank you. I'm very grateful. And now I just wanted to dig in a little bit in the area that you are, do a lot of personal development, which is one of my favorite areas, and that is the human mind. And I'm curious, what triggered your interest in this evolving field?
Gosh, I've always been interested in how we work as human beings. And I guess when I came across NLP, the way I like to describe it is it's the user manual for your mind, because we didn't come with a manual of how we actually work. So NLP has so many different facets and tools and techniques to help you get results and understand more about yourself. So I'm one of those people, Jane, that gets bored really quickly and changed jobs so many times. Yet when I came across NLP, I knew I'd come across something different. It opened the door. And I am one of those people that reads a lot. I'm one of those people who's explored a lot of what I call the ologies and erapies. So when we were speaking earlier, I was saying my ideal role would be one of those people that is permanently on courses and learning. It's one of the things that gives me my biggest excitement. You know, to learn something new that's exciting, that's different, to go on all these different courses and then sort of write reviews of who they'd be best for. I think that would be a super role to create. And you know, I'm very blessed because I already work in a number of different fields, from, you know, whether it's speaking professionally in front of for organizations, whether it's running NLP certification programs. I'm an author, well, as you said, and I work with the plant medicines. I've got a nice gong downstairs and my crystal bowl. So I'm very blessed that, and maybe it's something that you find later in life, that you find all the different things that you did, and you used to wear different hats for this and different hats for that, that they come together and blend in the most beautiful way, such that I used to think that, you know, you had to just do one thing. And really that's not the case. You can find your own unique blend. You know, it's probably a little bit like my cooking. I'm never going to follow the recipe exactly.
Right. That's I feel and sense that you have a lot of creativity, but also life learning is one of the key things to not only being an entrepreneur, but just to be growing in life. And I'm with you there because I love to learn as well. And now you mentioned neuro-linguistic programming, and I know that you are a master trainer. Maybe dig in a little bit more and tell us how neuro-linguistic programming works. And I know that you've called it the user manual for the mind patterns in thinking and beliefs, but just unpack that for us for those who aren't familiar with it.
Okay, as I said, I do like to describe it as the user manual for your mind, because if you think about it, have you ever said the wrong thing at the wrong time, you know, foot and mouth syndrome? Or have you ever behaved in a way and looked at yourself and thought, I can't believe I just did that? So what NLP does is it helps you become aware of those patterns in thinking and behavior. And more importantly, if those patterns in thinking and behavior are not working, it helps you do something about it. So it's not just one, you know, a lot of the ologies and therapies, it's one thing. And I'm not a one-size-fits-all kind of person, you know, no matter how stretchy that lycra, it really doesn't fit everybody. So NLP has so many different tools and techniques that you can always get results. And the other thing I loved about it is, you know, we live in such a culture of if people are broken, they're going to, whether it's a doctor or therapist or counselor, and it's like, fix me. And that leaves people disempowered. And that's very much the culture we're on. And one of the things I love about NLP is it do with process. So if somebody doesn't want to change, then that's fine. And responsibility for results lies with the person getting the results. So for instance, you know, NLP and hypnosis, timeline therapy, they all go to work together really well. You know, in hypnosis, you know, when people say, oh, I can't be hypnotized, I laugh actually, because what they're saying is I choose not to follow instructions. Because if I say close your eyes, you can choose to accept that suggestion or not. You always have a choice. And it's the same when it comes to change. You can choose to change or not. And a lot of the work is, or play, I like to call it, is getting people to the point where they're ready to change. And then change happens, you know, in a heartbeat. And we all have that kind of like resistance to change. The other thing about NLP, and it was something that I was going to talk about today, is, you know, part of, you know, the spiral effect and unlocking that brilliance within you is understanding our two minds. We have the conscious mind, which is, you know, constantly analyzing, criticizing, judging everything that's going on, whether you know it or not. From what I'm saying, what you're wearing, it's judgmental, it's also reactive. So think of it like a computer screen and a keyboard. You can key information in, it appears on the screen, or information appears on the screen and you respond and react to it. Except nothing happens on the screen unless your screen and your keyboard are connected to the hard drive. The hard drive in yourself is your unconscious mind. Some people like to call it the subconscious mind. I prefer to refer to it as the unconscious mind, same. Now, your unconscious mind is essentially a recording and playback device. It takes in everything. And it forms the habit mind, which is what we respond and react to. And it's far, far, far more powerful than the conscious mind. So even when you think that you're consciously making a decision, you're not. That decision that you're making is actually based on programs and patterns that you are operating from, programs and patterns that may have been installed when you were a child or from the ancestral line. You know, so we think we're free, but actually, you know, if people are watching this and looking at the screen, we're held in that boundary condition. We come in with the ancestral genetic line. Then there's, you know, if you believe in, you know, other dimensions, there's the karma, the Akashic records, then there's societal conditioning, social media, and then all the other crap that we create for ourselves in this lifetime. So we're held in this pattern. And so when people think they're being expansive, they're not. They're only operating in this boundary. And so it's getting rid of those boundaries, and that's when you discover just how powerful and brilliant you are. Now, again, the difference with NLP and a lot of other personal development programs. And I know when we were speaking earlier that you've been on many programs, and I'm sure you've been on those programs that are great at the time. And it's like, wow, this is great. You get to know and meet new people. And then you go home and it all goes back to the way it was because you start operating from the programs and patterns. And this is where NLP is different, because all learning, all behavior, all change actually is the domain of the unconscious mind. So if you want to learn anything new, it's the domain of the unconscious mind. It may go through the conscious awareness first, but it's certainly stored at the unconscious level. When it comes to behavior, all behavior actually is the domain of the unconscious mind. And the more important the body function is, the more likely it is to be the unconscious mind. So, you know, if you had breakfast this morning, Jane, then who's digesting your food? Are you sitting there going, move that coffee down? No, it's your unconscious mind just gets on with it. And the same if it comes to beating your heart. Can you imagine if we consciously had to beat our heart every second? It would be whoops, forgot, dead.
Yeah.
And
there won't be too many of us around.
Exactly. And then change is also the domain of the unconscious mind. So let me give you an experience here. So we've the now that you're actually experiencing right now actually registered at the unconscious level at least half a second ago. Now that may seem like something that I've just made up on the spot, but actually it came about through 15 years of research by a neuroscientist called Benjamin Liebe. Now, why is it important to you and me and the people watching this? Well, let's say you're driving around, and I've been in Arizona many times, so the traffic's not so bad there. In Dubai, or if you go to India or Cairo, then it's, you know, you're going to get caught up in traffic. So let's say you get caught up in traffic. You react and say, you this, you that, you get angry, you get stressed. And then when you finally calm down, you say to yourself, I have no idea why I let that happen. Next time that happens, I'm just going to stay calm, in control, let it waft over me. 15 minutes later, somebody cuts you up in traffic. You get angry, you get upset, you curse, you scream. How come? When you said you were going to stay calm? Well, it's because the information hits the unconscious level. You respond and react based on the programs and patterns you have stored there. So like a computer, which we upgrade on a regular basis, sadly, many of us are operating from programs and patterns that were installed through our parents, our family, our religion, our schooling. And it's not that our family were out to get us. It's just that we chose to adopt programs and patterns that some help us and some hinder us. So NLP works at the unconscious level. It brings things up for you to become aware of. So it's a little bit like the old metaphor of you're in a dark room and you need to switch on the light and you see the wires that have been tripping you up all the time. Now you can see what's tripping you up, you can do something about it. You can choose to switch off the light and trip yourself up over and over again, which sounds stupid, Jane, and many people do that.
Yeah.
I think it's like eating from the buffet of life. You've got everything available. And instead you go and you eat something, you think, oh gosh, don't like that. So in life you have a bad experience. What happens is you keep focused on that's going to happen again, that's going to happen again. And it's like saying to yourself, okay, I didn't like that, but I'm going to choose that from the buffet again and again and again and again and again. Maybe when we look back in life, when you have relationships that don't go well. Back in the day of old vinyl, what did we used to do? When we'd play all the records that reminded us of that person just to make sure that we really felt bad.
Right.
But instead of we have a buffet in life, and life we're also in a frequency of duality, or a dimension of duality, which means that we need to, sometimes have a taste and go, oh, I don't like that, and choose something better next time. It's all there.
Yes. Yeah, Beautiful explanation. I know you've referred it to as fitness for the mind. And
Yes,
I go back to what you said at the beginning, that when we have something that goes wrong, we're not aware. The awareness is key, because if we're not aware what we're not aware of, then how can we be aware of it? You know what I mean?
yes.
You first need to learn that there is something that you need to bring to the surface. But yes, I understand it. It's a very vital, and I love your analogy of the computer and even the buffet, because once we become aware of those things, then that is when we can start, like you say, fitness for the mind, or we can start saying, is that the choice I really want to make? You know, or like the wires in the darkness. I thought that was perfect. I mean, you can choose to move those wires, or you can keep tripping over them. But first we need to be aware of that's what's tripping us up, is the wires, which,
Yes.
what you,
Another lovely metaphor is, when people have challenges and problems, that's what they're focused on. It's as if they're in a huge dark warehouse and they've got a torch, and you can only see what you shine the torch on. And most people, it's the problem. Of course, in NLP, we always reframe it's a challenge. So that's what you're shining your torch on. And, when people come with a challenge or a problem, we can always laugh, because what's bigger? Your problem or your challenge, or everything in the universe that's not your problem or challenge. So it's like taking that torch and then helping another person shine the torch in other areas of that warehouse, lighting it up and seeing different possibilities.
I love that.
And that's, as I said, we live in a universe of infinite possibilities, the unified field, everything you can imagine and not even imagine is there. It's getting into that alignment to receive. And most of us are busy out here, going everywhere, that it can't find you.
Yes.
I think it's Eckhart Tolle who talks about the power of now, and the power of being still. And I must say, it took me a long time to get there. And when you are in that power of now or still, then magical things find you. And things flow to you in a way that you could not have imagined. The hard work dissipates and you move into the heart work.
I love that. You have just segued right into my next question, which was a quote from your book that says, imagine going beyond the boundaries of who you believe yourself to be. And I think you were just talking about that. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say in reference to that quote.
Well, it is, the boundary that we find ourselves in, that people think they're free and they're making great goals and they're expanding life, yet we're still held within that boundary. And I often think it would be really nice if we could strip ourselves naked, walk into life, look at that buffet and say, do you know, I'll have a dose of confidence, or give me double on self-worth and self-esteem, that you could adopt your beliefs.
Yes.
A bit like, when you send your clothes off to the dry cleaners, they come back the next day freshly ironed and pressed. And yet we do have that choice, because if you choose to create your life in a way that it's not working, then you have the choice and the resources and the wisdom to create something different. And if you can look at some of those most challenging times in the life as just sampling something else from the buffet. I'm thinking of a client who came recently, and she said, when we were looking back, she had that ability in life. She said, I always never had any challenge with attracting relationships into my life. And she said, they were usually on my terms. But she said to me, I haven't dated for 4 years. And I said, how come? She said, well, the last relationship, I knew it wasn't right. And yet I somehow went with it. And she ended up being hurt. And she hasn't dated for 4 years. And I said, so you got hurt. You had something, you tasted something that you didn't like. And of course, we know we're living in a world of duality. You have to know, you have to know love not love to understand love. You sometimes need to understand poverty to understand what true wealth is. And sometimes the universe pulls the rug from under you and says, wealth actually isn't about the big car, the big house, or this. It's not what you thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
The real, it's really what you are inside, and that, you know, you're more than you believe yourself to be, really comes down to the fact that we've misjudged our own brilliance.
Mm.
I often talk about or share the story, we all know the story about Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the poor boy who came across a magic lamp, and when he rubbed the lamp, a genie appeared and granted all his wishes. And I suspect a lot of your viewers are wishing they can find that lamp right now and that genie. And the good news, Jane, is that genie, that genius is inside of us.
Mm.
You know, that, you know, just in terms of who we are, we have the brain in our head, so we have our intellectual ability. You know, some years back they identified certain cells within the heart that mean it can be assigned as intelligence. It can be a brain. Of course, it doesn't look like the brain in the head, it wouldn't fit. But if you go back to ancient Egypt, in the mummification process, they always made sure the body was intact with the heart, but they discarded the brain as worthless. Not only that, but the electromagnetic field that emits from the heart far exceeds the electromagnetic field that emits from the brain. And this was something we were talking about before we came on this call, I believe, that, you know, I believe your presence should be a present, a gift to other people. Mm-hmm. And, you know, often people speak more loudly through their presence than through the words they use. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that we really should think about our presence. And this is the electromagnetic field. It shouts out to people. People get a kind of like vibe. Every organism in the world reads vibration and energy. As human beings, we've got a little bit lazy with that. So we've got the brain in our head, we've got the brain in our heart. Then there's the enteric system, which is the gut intelligence. So we all know if we've eaten something a little bit dodgy, your stomach's going to grumble and growl, make you feel bad. Your stomach impacts how you actually feel. So again, we're not just a physical being. You know, there's the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. We need to, you know, move them and weave them all together. You know, you can't just work on one without impacting the other. And then, you know, we have cell intelligence. We're made up of billions and billions of different types of cells. Even a single cell has the ability to make decisions in unforeseen difficulties. And our cells hold the blueprint for who we are physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And this goes back to the love of learning. Because guess what? If your cells hold your DNA and the blueprint for who you are, each time you learn something new, you are updating your cells. So we've got other, you know, you've got your chakra system, you've got the meridians, you've got the vagus nerve, the pineal, all the glands, you've got all this intelligence going on inside of you, as well as billions of neurons constantly wiring and firing. All of this brilliance going on inside one person.
It's amazing.
Now, imagine if you've got an organization or a team or a core group of friends, then you've got hundreds of brains, billions of neurons, wiring and firing in different directions. So the question, Jane, is how do you harness all that potential and make sure it's aligned with your vision and your mission? How do you kind of like harness all of that? Mm-hmm. And that's where part of where NLP comes in, and all the different little tools and techniques that are available in this world to, you know, help us shine and be truly brilliant, be more than we thought we could be.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Okay, we're just going to stay on that subject now. It's such an incredible gift. Really, human beings, we have so much potential. And of course, with the advent now of technology, for those who don't believe the ancients, we have all of the sciences now that are proving that, like you said, the heart and the intelligence of the heart and the energy and all of that. I wanted to move on, and thank you so much. That was a beautiful explanation. So what is the biggest block that people encounter in following their passion?
Well, I've already discussed and shared a little about that biggest block. And you may be surprised, and people may be surprised, because when I ask that question, you know, what brings up this resistance to, you know, discovering more of who you are and opening up to brilliance? People say, oh, beliefs, fears, being stuck in your comfort zone, all of those are correct. But you know, your biggest barrier is simply your conscious mind. Remember I said it's constantly analyzing, criticizing, and judging. And so many people recognize that little blah, 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 blah.
The inner critic.
The inner critic, or I often do with men and women, but for men, often I say to them, you know, that little voice that beats you up, is it your voice or is it your mother's voice? And they go, well, you know, it's usually my voice. And I said, how about changing it so it's someone like, say, Angelina Jolie saying, you know, you're a very, very naughty boy. Does that change the meaning? And of course, they always burst into laughter. And of course, I guess for women, it will be Johnny Depp or something like that, depending on your age. And so, you know, this is also becoming aware of we are in charge of our mind. And one of the first keys to success, whether it's going to be meditation, whether it's, you know, going out there and setting up your own business, whether it's bringing your dreams to fruition, whether it's, you know, following your passion, whatever, is mind mastery. It starts with the mind, and most of us are so messy. And then, you know, I shared the difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. You've also got the superconscious mind. And I think, you know, I was recently doing a very, very interesting, I'm a master trainer of hypnosis, and I love coming across something different. So I came across a different protocol that works exclusively with the superconscious mind, which of course holds the blueprint for all of who we are, from, you know, the Akash, the Karma, you know, our interdimensional self, and also it knows exactly what needs to be done in terms of health and healing. And this is where, you know, people's beliefs come in, because, you know, if I scratch my hand, I've got 3 cats, so it's very likely that, you know, if one's having a little bit of a rough day, I get scratched. Now, if somebody gets scratched, we think nothing of it, because we know in 2 days it'll be gone. So the body's ability to regenerate, rejuvenate, and heal, and know when something is wrong, and to communicate with us through, many people will be aware of kinesiology, muscle testing, which is used through PSYCH-K as well, where we use PSYCH-K and muscle testing to understand about removing limiting beliefs. You know, our body is communicating with us all the time. The challenge is most of us don't listen anymore. And this comes back to start paying attention to what's working in your life. And, you know, really looking at that as if you pour oil on water, it comes to the surface. So sometimes things have to come to the surface, or the body shouts louder to us. And, you know, what do most of us do when we're sick? We go to the doctors, and we go the allopathic route, which, if you look at any medication you're given, it has side effects and things. Or if you look at the side effects of many antidepressants, one of the side effects is death, suicide. Believe it or not, and I'm not joking. That's one of the side effects. Plus, if you're taking things like Valium, I don't know whether you're aware of how many months it can stay in the system. Even antibiotics can stay in the muscles for months. So our first port of call when we're sick is usually to go and grab some medicine. Yet, if you read some of the wise sages of the past, they will always say, fast, stop eating. And this is where, whether it's juicing or a water fast, and people go, what, just water? you're bringing your body back into homeostasis. It can do what it needs to do. The good microbes can build and everything. Whereas when you just, what most people do when they're sick, they're putting more stuff in there. You need to allow your body to flush and cleanse. So, you know, you were saying that I work with certain indigenous medicines. And again, I work in conjunction. Some of those medicines that I work with, one in particular, Cambo, is such a great way to flush the system and build the immune system. But also when I work with some of the other plant medicines, with some of the women that I work with, we do a gallbladder cleanse. We clean up the neuroreceptors with kratom and scoletium and cannabis. We use other things to flush the system, pine resin, to clean up the system, so you have a cleaner experience with the plant medicines, which allow you to expand your awareness. I think it was David Lynch who said, you know, if you have a golf ball size consciousness, when you read the book, when you watch the movie, when you go to the program, that's what you'll experience. But if you can expand that to the size of, say, a football, when you read the book, watch the movie, go to the program, you get more from it.
Right.
But as I said, most of us do not take that time to be still and listen, or to, when in terms of health and healing, to flush the system and really, this is the genius that we are, to listen. So
Yes.
when you listen, you see all those programs and patterns. You, going back to what I said, you see what's tripping you up, and then you have a choice.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We hold our emotions in our bodies, and you're right. We need to listen. And unfortunately, in the North American culture, we just unfortunately keep going sometimes, and then that's when it really hits us. But that's fascinating, and I just wanted to move on now. So how do you find hot buttons to success?
Well, we are creatures of patterns and habits, and it's our patterns in thinking and behavior that actually create our response to circumstances. So, for example, people wake up with an alarm clock or mobile phone, to be more precise. So let's say the alarm goes. What's the conditioned response? The alarm is the trigger. The conditioned response could be to leap out of bed and greet the day, or hit the snooze button, grab another 15. If you're driving and you come across a traffic light, the traffic light is a trigger. And if it's red, the conditioned response is stop. If it's green, the conditioned response is go. In an organization, if they call a meeting, the conditioned response, the meeting's the trigger, the conditioned response is usually, oh no, not another board meeting, so aptly named. So we are subject to conditioned response. So it's family, parents are fabulous at pushing those hot buttons, those triggers, because, you know, it's your parents that usually set the triggers and they know how to push them. What do they say? You know how enlightened you are if you spend a week with your parents.
Oh, I love that.
I must be getting so good. I love time with my mom, but reached the 10-day time and I'm kind of like done. Getting better. So here's the other thing, Jane. We ourselves are triggers that create a response in other people. So when people see you, when they hear your name, when they hear your voice, do they go, oh, yes? Or do they go, oh, no? And actually, conditioned response forms the foundation of intelligent marketing. You know, this is the reason that products or companies get celebrities in to endorse and enforce their products, or you want people to give you great testimonials. But as an individual, and particularly when, you know, we're talking about, you know, the subject matter of this summit, you know, from passion to profits, and, you know, how do you grow? And it's thinking of yourself as, what do people associate with you? You know, we've all got that friend, when we see their number or their name come up on their phone, we go, oh, shall I just let it ring and go to voice message? Or you have to psych yourself up because you know you're in for a kind of conversation that's going to go. Or are you the person that people want to speak to because, going back to what we said earlier, you know, is the electromagnetic field that you're emanating lifting people? Is your presence a gift and presence to other people? And, you know, which means that you become a trigger that creates a good response in people.
Right.
Now, of course, if we are subject to conditioned response in these triggers, once we start recognizing them, the question is, can you change them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jane, let's say, you know, you present and you're a great presenter, and you are, that you only have trouble presenting when there's a peer group in front of you. The rest of the time you're confident, you do your thing, but when there's certain types of people there, you fall to bits. Or when he looks at me in a particular way, I feel anxious and I bite my nails. We can't change the people in the audience, the peer group. We cannot change the way he looks at you. What we can do is we can change your conditioned response.
Mm-hmm.
So I always think about this as you've got a plug, and when you plug that plug into a socket, that's the power, that's the result that you get. With NLP, it's a little bit like taking all those ways those neurons wire and fire together and plugging it in a different way. So for example, Jane, if I smile at you, the natural reaction is to smile back, right?
Right.
And that's because that's the way our neurons wire and fire together. You know, and that's a natural human instinct. Somebody smiles, you smile back. That's the way those neurons wire and fire together. So, as I said, the question is, can we pull the plug out and put different wires in? So when you put it in, that person still looks at you in that particular way, but you wave and smile back instead of going like this. That those people are still in the audience, instead of going, oh God, what am I going to say? You have, you know, you're in total self-control, you feel confident, you feel energized and powerful. The answer to that question is yes. And there's a number of different ways to do that. Back to the power, the beautiful power of the mind.
Right, right, absolutely. So you may have answered part of this question, because you say that there is a difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. And now I'm beginning to believe that it really has to do with what we bring into the room, how we present ourselves. Is there anything that you needed to add to that?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you look at successful people do things differently inside their head. And part of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, another way to describe it is modeling excellence. So if you see somebody who's doing what you want to be able to do, instead of going, oh, I wish I could do that, it's finding out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Now, chances are when you see somebody who's brilliant at what they do and you say, how do you do that? They go, I don't know, I just do it. And this is where, you know, if you look at the learning ladder, we become unconsciously competent. We don't understand how we do what we do. So again, NLP unpacks that. So you find out how you do what you do, you know, all the brilliant stuff you do in your life. How do you do that? And how can you transfer those areas of brilliance and transfer them to other areas of your life where you're not so brilliant? So you learn your strategies for success. And with NLP, we always encourage you to have a model of excellence, somebody who's doing what you want to be able to do. Right. You know, that you can look up to. And isn't that also how we grow and evolve? And if you think about, you know, our favorite teachers in the world, they had to learn from somebody, and then they decided to share it, and they become somebody else's role model. And so, you know, this is how we learn, grow, and evolve. So it's discovering not just what people do, but how they do what they do. So it's like a map. So if I tell you about a brilliant, brilliant restaurant that I know near you, Jane, you'll go, oh, fantastic, Carol, tell me how to get there. And I'll say, oh no, Jane, I can't tell you. You've got to discover it for yourself. You've got to sit there and think about it. You've got to understand your reasons why you want to go for that restaurant, what you'd have to believe about yourself to find that restaurant. And you're sitting there going, well, couldn't you just give me a map? And of course, the answer is yes. And you know, that's where a lot of the ologies and therapies I went to made it hard work to get from where you are to where you want to be. You know, it's like, give me the map, you know, show me, you know, what are the best beliefs and, you know, the thinking patterns.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, that person has got to want to change. So it's not like, you know, when you're sick, you go to the doctor and say, fix me. It's like, okay, I want to make these shifts and changes.
Mm.
And most people say, once you get people to that point where they want to change, you know, change happens instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll accept the visualization, or they'll be drawn to sound healing. You know, when you talk about healers, really healers do nothing. All they do is they operate from a certain frequency. That's all they can do. And if the person coming for healing chooses to align and go into resonance with that frequency, that's the beautiful thing of working with sound and frequency. When you go into resonance, then healing can occur.
Right.
Unfortunately, most of us have these beliefs of it's not going to work for me. Or you get the people with secondary gain whose problem gives them far more benefit than getting rid of the problem. So I have the people who say, I've been everywhere, nobody can cure me. Now, if they are cured, then they've lost the one thing that made them special. So often people have secondary gain to holding on to the way things are.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I laugh a little now because you hear people say, oh, when things go back to normal, or when things go back to the way they were.
Right.
And, you know, that is our genius. We are, you know, points of consciousness, and a point of that consciousness is here in physical form to explore this nature of duality, because the good, the bad, the ugly give us our biggest opportunity for growth. It's chaos, it's crisis that creates evolution. You know, we look back on our life, and it's not when you are like, oh, la-di-da, isn't life wonderful? You know, we trip on those wires, and that offers us the opportunity for growth, for evolution, to step into a new perspective. And that is what should excite people, to discover more of who they are and less of who they're not. Right. And successful people, they've got that mind mastery. They know how to focus. And then, just preempting, maybe there's another question there, but often people say, yes, but Caroline, you know, the law of attraction, I'm focusing on what I want. But again, if you're in this boundary of these beliefs, these conditions and things, it can't find you. And, you know, so it's about clearing that. Also, there's a couple of things here. One, you know, we are not isolated. So when we send a thought, and we are creators, and we create through our thoughts, they're dynamic, they're not static. Mind is static. Thought is dynamic, it's movement. But most of us can't hold the same thought for more than a second. When you can learn to do that, and people say, no, I'm sending that out into the universe, you know, the law of attraction, for what purpose am I not receiving back what I want? Well, it's a two-way street. We've got the feed forward out into the universe. Then we have the feed back. Now, if you lived totally alone in the universe, and there is a lovely book called The Disappearance of the Universe, which presupposes that everything outside of us is our manifestation. And of course, you can't prove anything outside of you, because we see, make our reality through our five senses. But if you were totally alone in the world and you had a thought, that's the feed forward. It could come back to you immediately. So you would get everything you wanted, and it would be a little bit boring. However, we are in the world, we have these thoughts, but we are also part of the collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And this comes round to who you surround yourself with. And, you know, they always say, you know, who are the 6 people near you, and do they lift you or take you down? Are they moving you up higher? So the people that you surround yourself with, that's the field that you're in the majority of the time.
Mm.
And they are also putting thoughts into the field. And this is where, you know, the media, especially, you know, the mass media, you know, is doing a very good job at the moment of putting people into fear and you know, a very sad perspective. And we better not go there. So you're also, when you send your thought out, you're part of the collective consciousness. So this is where you need to release how it comes to you. And also the other thing I want to say here is, in terms of being the wonderful creators that we are, you know, the cause and effect. And we are the cause for the effects in our life. And we sometimes can't see that when life is good, it's easy to say, oh, look at me, look what I created. Mm-hmm. When it's not, we cannot see how our thoughts could impact us that way, because there's a time delay between having the thought and it being created. So the situation we find ourselves in globally is actually a result of the global darkness, messy thoughts, what we watch on TV, what we're programming ourselves in, what we're putting in our pie, mm-hmm. you know, basically. So I watch very, very little TV. I'm very careful what I put in my body, but also what I watch, what I put in my mind. So we are magnificent creators. But as I said, we've got this, you know, feed forward and feed back. But here's the other thing that I've also found out is we've been told and taught that we have to work hard, that we have to go out there and make it happen. We need to network, we need to market, we need to sell, we need to do this. And I've been that person, Jane, and I've run myself ragged, and I've been a very good manifester. But I know I used to not understand some of the things that one of my mentors said to me. I used to get so angry at him. I used to ask him a question, and he'd very calmly just say, I thought I answered that question. And I go, no, you didn't. And because I've recorded the sessions, it took me a long time before I listened back, and I saw that he had answered the question, but I wasn't present. I was always thinking of ahead, and I was just finishing a program that I was running last night. And I'd just said something, and then up came the question from one of the delegates, and it was exactly the question that I'd answered, like seconds before. And I thought, I just answered that. And I didn't say it because I realized, you know, what most people do, we're busy inside our own head, manifesting the question we want to ask next or what we want to create. We're never in the present. We're either in the future going here, or we're in the past thinking, poor me, how my past has impacted me and created these boundaries and beliefs. So everything is available in the unified field from the buffet of life, and it can't find you. Because we're either in the past or the future. The moment you become still, you become a magnet. And I'm only sharing this because I know this to be true as a person who's gone out there being very future orientated, being very action orientated. Need to meet my goals, need to be doing this, must be busy, and being so irritated with my last mentor when he said, be still, you know, do nothing. And I'd say to him, I've been doing nothing for a week. Now will something happen? He said, no, because now it's conditional. You're doing it like if you do nothing for a week, now will something happen? Jane, honestly, the less I do and the more still I become, the more joyful I become, but also opportunities that I never would have imagined come out of the blue. And it's certainly not because I've updated my websites or gone and done any marketing. you know, like at the end of last year or in August last year, out of the blue, somebody asked me to write a documentary around the Thank You Plant Medicine movement. You know, some women that I work with in South Africa said, Carol, we want to work with you. That we would have been in Mexico right now had this not been happening. So, you know, this is the, you know, when you become aligned, when you become more of who you are. And this is successful people. And when you say successful people, this is truly successful people who know it's not the car, the house, the money. And when I see these things for make more money, do this, do that, it kind of turns my stomach a little now, because that really isn't what makes you happy often until it's all pulled away. And then you find your own brilliance of how brilliant we are.
Right.
Then, you know, you find that, you know, a ride on an old rusty bicycle gives you far more joy than, you know, saying, look at me, look at me. You know, you find that wisdom comes to you in a way that you wouldn't have imagined. I never used to work one-on-one with people, Jane. In fact, I disliked it. I always passed all my mentoring clients over to my associates or other people I know who are really good. I liked working with big groups on stage, and, you know, the more the merrier, loved it. And, you know, one of my friends actually forced me to work with somebody. She said, no. I said, but you know, there's somebody who's so much better. And she said, no, it has to be you. And there were times when I thought, I have no idea what to say, what to do for this person. And then, boom, when you're still, it's all available. And this it becomes more stunning, more surprising. You can be excited from moment to moment. And I'm sure you're finding this, that as soon as you set the intention to manifest and create this, that, you know, instead of working for other people to make things happen, that different things came in the most beautiful way that you couldn't even imagine. That when you set something that has a bigger purpose, that's not just for me, myself, and I, because, you know, you cannot not impact other people. That when you set that intention that impacts other people, the universe responds in the most extraordinary ways. And you see how it just is. So, and the energy at work, because we are energy.
Yes. Yeah. I completely believe that. And thank you. Oh my gosh, that was incredible. We are so blessed to have you on and to hear all of this incredible knowledge. I have another question, and you've done some unpacking with this, but I know it is one that is a broad topic, but one that you wanted me to ask. And it says, can we limit ourselves by our current view of reality? And can we actually create our own reality?
Yes, and it's a bit like, I was looking for my glasses and I can't see, because I haven't got my glasses on, I can't see where I put them. But luckily I always have a drawer full of extra ones. They're right in front of me. I've got two now. You know, it comes back to those boundary conditions of what we've been taught. And something I said earlier of really, you know, we see a very narrow bandwidth of information through our vision. Our eyes actually only take in information we don't actually see. Sound, we only hear a very narrow bandwidth of information. It doesn't mean that it's not all out there. And it goes back to also what I said about David Lynch's quote about, you know, golf ball sides thinking, if you can expand that. And, you know, we are energy. And, you know, we see our world through, you know, whether it's rose tinted glasses, blue, or, you know, pink or whatever. I don't know whether you've ever given this a go, Jane, but if you put like a blue lens there or yellow and wear it for an hour and take off those yellow tinted glasses and look at the world, everything looks so different.
Mm-hmm.
What that highlights, though, is not that just, now everything has a yellow glow, but what it highlights is that we filter our world through our beliefs, through our values, through our language. So, a lovely little experiment is, if we were to ask the audience to look around and look at everything that's green. Of course, we got the greenery, the plants, there's a plant behind me, and then so they can see that. But if they close their eyes and go blue, 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 just see blue, think blue. When they open their eyes, the first thing that pops out is everything that's blue. So my top, your top, and no, we didn't coordinate this and it just happened. The blue on my glass, everything they see is blue. So do we limit our perspective on how we choose to see the world? Yes. And this is one of the reasons that I run what I call breakthrough experiences. It's said that by the age of 35, we are already 95% set in who we are, how we respond and react in any situation in terms of our values, even language. We tend to use the same 100 words on a regular basis. So if by the age of 35, we're already 95%, how do you learn anything new? And this is where these breakthrough experiences come through, like the firewalk. And some people say, well, Cara, the firewalk, it's a very rah-rah experience. It is. However, one of the reasons that I run those experiences is because when people come, they're coming from a belief that can't do, no way. They've been taught if you put your foot or hand in fire, you will get burnt. That is what we've been taught to believe. And so when people come to these events that I run, there's also a pretty hefty waiver they have to sign that says it's dangerous, you may get harmed and everything. And people say, oh, I won't sign the waiver because I'm just going to watch. And I say, well, if you're just going to watch, sign the waiver anyway, because, you're just watching. So that everybody signs the waiver. And then it's my role that within the space of a couple of hours to rev up that energy, to get them aligned with the energy and frequency of the fire. There's actually an African tribe that crawl on their bellies across the fire to gain energy and power. And by the way, fire walking is not new. It's been practiced for thousands and thousands of years in many, many different cultures for many different reasons. Cleansing, energy, rite of passage. But, the fire has a certain frequency. When you can align with a frequency, does it impact your outer world? Absolutely. You're in resonance. Your frequency, your energy is in resonance with your outer world. So when I get people to the point where they think it's possible and they start walking across those coals, and I normally give people an opportunity to go several times, it begs the question, if I can do that, what else can I do in my life? Because here's the other thing. When we go to most training programs, and you will have had this, Jane, you go and it's like, they open up and either you share your name or they go around the room and then they share the objectives. And so you get people who say like this, it's like, I know what's going to happen. You already know what's coming.
Right.
So you're already, 95% set in how you'll emote, how you'll behave. You're already done deal. So how do we get people to create new neurological connections and break free? Well, when they come to a firewalk, most people have no they've got no previous experience of knowing how to respond and react in that situation. It's a bit like going, bungee jumping or skydiving. It's like, how do I, respond and react? Because there's nothing there. You haven't done it before. So what it does is it creates neurological connections, which beg the question that if I can do that, what else can I do in my life? A bit like when I said, when we scratch our hand, we think nothing of it. We know our body will take care of it. If it can heal a scratch, what else can it do? It goes back to, we really are that genius.
Right.
We really are. We are true brilliance. Time to shine.
Right. So we can, in fact, create our own reality. It's really a matter of perspective, I believe, as well. Like you said, how you see things or how you approach it. And
yes, and we're seeing now is some people choose to see this situation as the worst of times,
Right.
whereas others choose to be excited at the possibility.
Right.
So, you know, I'm often asked when I'm about to go on stage, do you get nervous, Carol? And I go, no, I get excited. So that's using different language, because there's a big difference between saying, you know, I'm angry, I'm furious, I'm irate. It impacts the body differently to saying, you know, I'm a little bit ticked off. You know, so it's how you choose to see these experiences.
Right.
And some people choose to see the glass, you know, as half empty, or, you know, I like to encourage people to be a quality shopper, look for the best in the world. Unfortunately, in this box that we find ourselves in, we've been trained to see the worst. And even in school, you know, all sports is aimed at somebody wins, somebody loses. You know, you have to have an A student. You know, if you're C or below, you're not good. You know, this, rather than seeing how brilliant we are for who we truly are.
Right.
Who we truly are. Yes.
Yeah. Well, my next question is, what is the spiral effect?
Okay. Well, it goes a little bit back to where we've been weaving in and out so beautifully. Is, you know, first of all, understanding that we are brilliant and how do we harness all of that. And then discovering what lies beneath the hard drive of you. In other words, those programs and patterns that you're operating from, are they helping you or hindering you? Are you tripping up? And are you ready to clear the wires, or are you going to switch the light and keep tripping? And then understanding those triggers, what triggers you, and understanding that you can change those conditioned responses. It is possible to, you know, teach an old dog new tricks, that we can change the wiring by mastering the mind. Then understanding the fact that we can harness energy, and this is where chaos and crisis comes in, actually. And I talked about, you know, we tend not to grow when we're just kind of flatlined. Which is unfortunately what antidepressants tend to do for people. They put people into a flat line rather than having these highs and lows. And, you know, instead of giving them skills and tools and ways to navigate the rapids in life, because we've all had emotional falls, financial crashes, physical falls. And if you look back at those times in your life, those are the ones that, you know, evolve and push you forward. I think, as Kennedy said, it's a rising tide that lifts all the boats, so to speak. So again, understanding, you know, the law of attraction talks a lot about aligning frequency and vibration, but you're vibrating at a frequency that's aligned and in resonance with your outer world. How do you have to change that? You have to choose to change. And it's often crisis and chaos that stirs the pot, that allows you to evolve. And most people these days will say that this has pushed them to maybe go online in a way that they wouldn't have before. I don't know whether you decide, well, this is the perfect time to organize that summit that I've been thinking about, and doing such a beautiful job of it, Jane, and bringing so many people together and putting something out in the world that's not impacting one person, it's impacting thousands and thousands and thousands. And here I am in the UAE as well. So the spiral effect comes down to, once you shift, others shift. So that you cannot set a goal in isolation. So a simple example of this would be, if you decide you want a new job or role, that means that if you get that new job, somebody left or got promoted, or the company expanded. And if somebody left, it means they got a new job or retired or opened up a company, which means somebody else. So you never create in isolation. This is the oneness, the unity, which brings me round to the morphogenetic field. You may be familiar with this story. And some people say it's true. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not, it highlights the point. But in the 1950s, there was some behavioral psychologists studying some monkeys on an island off Japan called Kushima. And every day when they arrived on the island, they bought a big truck, and this truck had sweet potatoes on it. And they emptied the sweet potatoes on the beach. Now, the monkeys loved the sweet potatoes, but what they didn't like was the sand and grit on the sweet potatoes. The story is told that one monkey apparently female, but who knows?
Yes, apparently.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah.
Took the sweet potato, she washed it in the sea and ate it. And I'm guessing it tasted nice with the salt from the sea and the sweetness of the sweet potato. She taught that to other monkeys, and in her family, they taught it to other monkeys and other monkeys and other monkeys, until one day the scientists arrived and they noticed that every monkey was picking up the sweet potato and washing it in the sea. Not only that, but there was a neighboring island where no monkeys from Kashima could have just quickly swum across, but they started doing it as well. And this highlights the morphogenetic field that cell biologist Rupert Sheldrake talks about. And he says that when individuals from a species get together, it creates a group mind, the collective consciousness we mentioned earlier.
Right.
And so we see evidence of this in nature. So, you know, if you just go outside, look up at the birds, you'll see a flock of birds and they all going in one direction, and then suddenly one changes, they all change. Or if you go scuba diving, it's incredible, isn't it?
Fish.
Imagine if we had that unity, that group mind, that when we change, everyone changes. And again, Jane, it comes down to our brilliance. Because to me, the morphogenetic field is the manifestation of pure genius. This is a spiral effect, because when you shift, others shift.
Right.
So if I smile at you, what happens? You smile back.
Right.
Because you smile at somebody else and make somebody else's day. Because you've made their day, they smile at somebody else. So you think about, even the biggest of bonfires started with a single spark.
Yes.
And this is right back to where we were starting before we even came on this call about, you know, being a gift in the world, you know, and shining. Because this is the spiral effect. Because, you know, a circle is just, you know, it's complete in its own right. But a spiral, you know, has, you know, the infinite microcosm and the infinite macrocosm. And we are brilliance constantly evolving.
Right.
And what you see in people when they stop learning, growing, being excited about, you know, all that we are and all that we can be, is when they pass over, when they choose to go to another opportunity to learn and grow.
Right.
So to me, this is a spiral effect, and this is, we don't have to be like Aladdin, look for that, you know, lamp and rub the lamp and wait for a genie, because the genie truly is inside of us. And there are so many wonderful gifts that I'm sure many of the women that you're interviewing are sharing with you, whether it's, you know, meditation, whether it's sound, whether it's the indigenous medicines, whether it's herbs and healings, whether it's simply the mindset, or a simple meditation or toning, you know, or hypnosis, or connecting with the superconscious. There's so many ways to explore your own brilliance of who we truly are, that has been condensed into this little box and that's been hidden. Now is our time to say, I am that genius, and ignite that spiral effect, not only in yourself and in others.
Yes. I can see, it's a great visual, because I can see the energy that produces as well. And it definitely does affect others. So with all of that, is there a couple of, like, 3 simple techniques to help us break through barriers that people can have as a takeaway to practice?
Yes, it's switching on the light. So awareness. Noticing what's working in your life, what's not working in your life. So it's switching on the light, seeing what's tripping you up.
Okay.
Remembering that there is a buffet of infinite choice, infinite opportunities, that you can choose to continue eating things that you don't like, and thinking that you will go back and have that another bad relationship or another bad experience, that you're going to pick the same thing. Or you can choose to say, I am done with that.
Mm.
and choose something else. So awareness, knowing that you have a choice. And you know, there are so many different tools and techniques, Jane. And this to me, as I said, I'm a seeker, searcher. I love, it gives me such excitement to come across new tools and new techniques. And one size doesn't fit all. So I'm very blessed to ways to work with people. What I would say is, you know, awareness, choose from the buffet, and please explore your brilliance. So it means saying, oh, that looks nice. I'm going to give that a go. Oh, that looks interesting. I'm going to give that a go. And if you don't like it, you do not have to have it again. You have choice.
The power of choice.
Exactly. So those are the three things that I would say. And as I said, you know, I love some of the choices that I'm able to offer the people that I share programs with or that I work with individually. You know, I love the fact that I've got, you know, a whole toolbox and buffet that I can say, you know, I think this person will work well with this, because one size doesn't fit all.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And I wanted you to share one story with us, because I listened to your TED Talk, which I loved, by the way, and you told the story about alchemy and what that means to you, because a lot of us understand the alchemy of turning one thing and then making it into gold, but you interpret it as another. Just share that with us.
Yes, you know, I studied alchemy as well, you know, which is basically how do you turn lead into gold. But the more you study alchemy, you realize that it's more than just turning a base or heavy metal into something more valuable like gold. And I remember at school, my science teachers and maths teachers used to scoff and say, oh, Carol, alchemy and turning lead into gold, it's just the worst of 16th century thinking. But what I've come to realize, particularly as I've got older, that maybe alchemy isn't a literal transformation of lead into gold. Alchemy is about making transformations inside ourselves. Because the gold, the brilliance, it's all there, waiting to shine. So that's the alchemy, you know, and that's the path to mastery.
Beautiful. What makes you happiest in business and life?
Exactly. Or sorry, was that a question?
Oh, great.
Are you asking how it makes me happy in business, or
it could be either or.
What makes you happy in business is when you're shining, and I do honestly believe, you know, when you feel, you know, happy, joyful, that you're. I always say, be the difference that makes the difference.
Ah, I love that.
I take that one step further. Be the difference that enables others to go out there and make a difference. You know, so even if, you know, in a room full of people, even if I'm only given 15 minutes for a keynote, or like you said, the TEDx talks, which you've got 18 minutes, you're on the clock. You know, if you can switch on one light bulb, which leads people to read the book, watch a movie, or check something on the internet, then you know that you've made a difference. And I'm sure that's the reason that part of the reason that you chose to, you know, you must have been working like a Trojan to get all these interviews, and I know they're going out and on a regular basis, and all the work and seeing it come to fruition. But inside of you was something deeper to make this happen and to give it freely out into the world.
Thank you. Yes, it is.
That makes the difference, and you are, Jane. And thank you for giving so many women the gift of sharing their brilliance.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. Can you just move a little closer? I'm having trouble hearing you. I don't know if you changed your volume. Okay, so we're wrapping it up, because I want people to hear all your brilliance. So tell us something that's not on your resume. Or maybe that's a whole nother interview. I don't know.
You know, I have 3 different websites. One is for all the NLP change
Right.
programs, firewalks, and more the corporate. Then I have my Carol Talbot website, which is the speaker. And then I have another website called amazingandbeyond.com, which is for what I call all the weird shit.
Oh, I love it.
So, you know, what I love about what I do, Jane, is that, you know, one day I'm, you know, in business in my corporate dress and, you know, high heels, although I must say I haven't worn high heels for such a long time. Long may flip-flops last, or bare feet. But, you know, I love the fact that I have the opportunity to do different things. So I shared with you, I also work with an indigenous medicine called Kambo. So, you know, one day I'll be, you know, in a business dress. The next day I'll be in the hippie gear, sitting cross-legged on the floor, watching somebody purge and holding space for them to go through an intense experience. So I love the variety.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you said you used to teach, or you teach yoga. You know, I also used to teach yoga, and I shared this at the beginning. I used to wear so many different hats. And now they all come together in the most brilliant way.
Right.
So, you know, you tend to share about yourself in accordance with the audience or who's in front of you.
Right.
I don't know whether when you were teaching yoga, you probably had people who never saw you outside of sweat gear or yoga gear.
You're right.
And when they saw you in, you know, it's like, oh, you're wearing proper clothes, that they never thought that you would wear clothes and makeup and things, you know, so you tend to be perceived in a particular way. So, you know, I love the fact that you can do so many different things. So I guess, as I said, I put different faces forward for different things, and you introduced me so beautifully with, you know, indigenous medicine. I shared with you there's the documentary. There's so many different facets, and isn't this part of our brilliance?
Right.
That we're not tied or glued to one thing.
Yes.
And some people like one thing. I like variety and lots of different things. So I hope that opens the door. That there's different facets, there's different perspectives.
Absolutely. Well, I have 4 final questions that are for fun, and hopefully you will find them engaging. So if your life were an epic story, what would the title be?
Well, gosh, Jane, those are really quite challenging off the cuff.
Meant to be for fun, so just let it go and pretend you're an epic story.
It would be, you know, exploring dimensions, exploring more than we thought we could be. You know, the path to mastery. It would be that kind of story. Becoming who you are.
Oh, there you go. That's beautiful. What name would you give your character in your epic story?
Azra Star. Or just Azra.
Azra. How would you characterize your epic life?
Bohemian, gypsy, exciting, tasting from all of the buffet of life, dancing, singing, music, engaging, a free spirit. Like you said earlier, that seeker, searcher, learner, that playful element of curiosity.
I'm there with you.
With a little bit of magic dust. You know, I was married, and I have a very good relationship with my ex-husband. And this is by no means the reason he's an ex-husband. He was an engineer. And of course, with firewalking and all the different things I'd come in, and I love the magic of life. And being an engineer, he likes to give a sensible explanation.
Right.
And I'd go, because I like the sprinkling of the little fairy dust here and there makes it a little bit more exciting. I have a very analytical mind. I like, the quantum stuff, but I love the little bit of magic. So there always has to be magic dust.
Well, you may have just answered the last question, which was, if you had one epic superpower, what would it be and why?
Then it would be that magic dust.
Mm-hmm.
That magic dust that has the ability to awaken that brilliance.
I love it.
Fullness.
I love
Yes.
it. Well, thank you, Carol, for coming on the show and sharing your incredible knowledge and gifts with us, and how we can all tap into our capacity to become a divine genius, and by doing so, turning our passions into profits. And now we would love to hear from you. So go on over to my Facebook page and write a comment. Tell us what your epic takeaway was from this conversation. And remember, this is where you imagine, create, and build a life and business doing what you love. So until next time, I'm Jane Applegath, and this is the Epic Vision Zone.